Okay, let's go. Hi everybody, my name is Jakob Trollbäck and I'm very happy to be here with you. And because I had so much I wanted to say, I made some notes and I made them in Swedish, so I'm going to translate. But so my story is that I'm actually, from the beginning I was a DJ, and I started to make flyers and invitations to my club, and I got interested in design. And so I wanted to get a job doing design of some kind. And I didn't have any education, and in Sweden people like when you have an education. And I was working on a computer, and people didn't work on computers in the business back then. So I said, let's go to New York, because there maybe I can get a better shot at doing something. And when I came there, I got a job at an ad agency. So I started to work with that. We worked a lot with moving images, movies and things like that. And after a number of years, I started my own company. And that was really fun. And we were doing a lot of work there. And it's been around for 20 years. And then 6 years ago, something very cool happened. Someone came to me and said, you know, I think the UN is going to release 17 goals for a better world. And he said, they're probably going to fail unless we can make them popular. And can you maybe help doing that? And that was, of course, a dream job. So I said, of course, let's do that. Let's figure out how we can communicate this. And like the thing you realize is that the world is really complicated. And the world is just full of problems everywhere, and it can feel very overwhelming to figure out where to start. And the cool thing with the global goals is that it's like a map of everything that's going on, everything that we have to fix. So I found that all of a sudden I could think about the world in a much more constructive way. I could say, oh, we need to deal with this and that and this and that, instead of just like, oh, there's so much trouble, I just cannot handle this. So the world is complicated, but it's also like a lot of people say, oh, it's so complicated. But we shouldn't be afraid of complication, of like complicated systems, because that's what we create. Humanity create. I mean, societies are extremely complex, and we have to understand that complexity is a positive force. Like how complex is a computer? How complex is a piece of music? How complex is building a bridge? Like everything that we do is really complex. So the thing is just that we got to understand how complexity works. So that's something that I've been thinking about, and to understand it, we got to be better at communicating. So, and when you start to look at something as complex as like this is a little bit less complex now because we made it a little bit more understandable. But then you have to understand that information is not communication. There's so much information everywhere, but it's only communication when it reaches someone, right? When someone understands what you're talking about. So we got to get so much better at this and make sure that the issues are so crisp as possible. We really need to focus them in. And you know, you could say that that the world is complicated. This is also very helpful to some people. Like it's helpful for the powers. It's like, this is too complex. You don't understand this. Like you're too young, or you're too stupid, or you're not educated enough. This is something that people use to just grasp onto power. It's like, no. This is not a good thing for you to. And then what they do is that they talk about the economy, and they talk about you know, where the world is going up and down, always in money, and at the same time we're completely destroying the planet. So you can understand that part of thing. So, and we can understand that we're destroying the planet, and how can we get out of this? How can we get out of this complex, destructive situation that we're in? Thank you. So, I mean, the complex issues, that is something that we have experts and researchers and scientists that actually can solve the issues, but they need to have a direction, and the direction is pretty clear. We got to be clear that you cannot continue to destroy the planet, and you who are not destroying the planet, you have to help to fix it. So to set like a moral direction for everything we do, I think that that's the important thing. And you know, the global goals that so we created this system, we wrote the short names, we made all of the icons for it just so that people could understand it. And this agenda is, you know, it's also called Agenda 2030, which means that these issues should be done in 10 years. We've like squandered 5 years of them. So now we have 10 years. So then you can ask yourself, is it possible to change the world in 10 years? And then I would ask you to look back 5 years. How did the world look 5 years ago? Well, we didn't have Trump, we didn't have Brexit, we didn't have Corona, but we also didn't have Greta. Like, if you look at the world today, it's so different from the world 5 years ago. So this is how the world can change in 5 years. And now we have 10 years, but it's really we gotta get working on making this happen. So how can we get the world with us on this? I would like to ask everyone who's working with communication to get in on this, because that's an opportunity to do something important with your life. If you work at an ad agency, if you're a designer, if you're a writer, everyone who's worked with communication, like, get on to this. This is because there's a lot of people that are feeling that this world is not going that well, and you're depressed and you don't know where happiness is. And what we do instead is that we go into ourselves and we're like, okay, I can buy a new pair of shoes that makes me a little bit happy, I guess. But happiness can only come from doing something meaningful with your life. And this is like, there has never been anything more meaningful than to save the planet for ourselves and for all future generations. So this is like the uber happiness thing, like give your life some purpose. And so how we talk about this crisis then when we communicate is really, really important. The words really matters. And I think that you guys have been just amazing at that. We've been actually all the time for inspiration, because it's like you find new ways to frame the issues, and that is so really cool. And so continue to do that, and think also about what other people are doing, the people who don't want change, because they are actually really incredibly good at what they're doing, because they've spent a whole lifetime just figuring out how they can just like pull the curtains down so people don't see what they're doing. And there's a lot of examples, and a lot of them comes from America, because that's like that's the big concentrated capitalist world. And what happens there with the world, when Bush came to power, he was talking about tax relief. And what you do there is just pure genius, because relief is something that's nice. We all want relief. And from what? from taxes. So you have framed taxes as something negative. And we all know that taxes is what builds society. That's how we all share. That's how we all make sure that there are streets, that there are art, that there are healthcare, social structure. Taxes is the most positive thing, I would say, that humankind have come up with. It's the way we share and build things together. Now, when they talk about tax relief, they have framed tax as something negative. And you can't argue with it. You can't say, oh, I'm against tax relief. Because then it's like, well, no, you've already defined what the issue is. And when we talk about the climate, we have to be careful so we make sure that we also don't like fall into traps where someone else puts the value of the words that we're using. So I'm going to end with saying that besides communication, it's also very much about our own behaviors. And our own behaviors are so key in everything that we do. And you know, one thing, I actually really love electric scooters because they're so convenient and they're so much fun. And every time I see an electric scooter just tossed on the ground, like my blood boils. Because it's like, here's someone who's just demonstrating, I don't care. I don't give a shit. Excuse me. I don't care. And what do they not care about? They don't care about something that we share together. If it was their own electric scooter, they would be very careful and park it somewhere nicely and probably lock it. And now they just toss it in the water because they think that's fun, right? It's such a disregard from trying to do something together. And we see that all over. We see that even with people who are honking like crazy. It's like, it's me, I don't care if I'm like, this thing that we build together has got to be based on our value, our humanity, and what we care and how we behave. Because the culture has focused so much on individualism, and we see what that has taken us, and we see how egotism is like such a destructive force in the world. And it's at the same time it's been praised by so many. Oh, these men, there's almost always men, right? They're so successful. And so what happened is that we look to values that are not about creating things together. We look to values that are separating us. So, and that's why it's so amazing that you guys are here. Because it really matters that you stand for something and that you stand for something together. And it's really real. It's a real issue. There's real honesty and there's real engagement. And it's very hopeful. I think that it's hopeful always when you see these things happen. And you know, we're the people who look at the world and we say, this is wrong. We have to change this in some way. And what it means is that we're not negative. We're constructive. We're seeing a way out of it. We're criticizing the system as it is. And the people who criticize the system and want a better system and protesting against what's wrong, that's the true optimists in the world. And I want to thank you for being such a positive and optimistic force in the world, because we really need it. Thank you. Does anyone have a question?
Questions?
As someone, I'm interested in a career in the creative world, how would you get started in engagement? I mean, you got the opportunity to do design for the UN Development Goals, but how would you suggest someone who wants to engage themselves in their interests in their field of interest, how would you suggest they start?
So I started myself by it's sort of the stairway to heaven method, when you like take up a guitar and you're like doing. I did exactly the same thing with design. I just looked at design and I just copied it. I was like, oh, this looks cool, I want to do something that looks that cool. And of course the advantage today is that we all have access to computers. So I would say the first thing, like, figure it out a little bit, like do things and look at great writing, look at great inspiring writing, and then put together like a kit of things and come and talk to us. Like, come and talk to anyone who's in the field.
Okay, thanks.
I thought of Climate for Dummies.
Climate for Dummies.
With cartoons of
yeah.
how it works.
Yeah.
That's an idea. Basic communication.
Yeah. We've made some children's programs about the global goals. What is the age group there?
3 to 7, I think.
3 to 7.
Very small kids.
Yeah. Anyone else who have something? So the question is, how does it feel to work with advertising and be interested in this? I mean, when you're working... Okay, so I've never really worked with advertising, even though I sort of have, but I've more worked with branding. And when you work with branding, it's about finding the essence of something. And when I started my company in America, we sort of didn't like that clients came and said, oh, make it cool. We were like, well, what are your values? What are you standing for? What is your core offering that's different than other people do? So we pretty early on got good at like detecting bullshit and like figuring out what is the essence of something. And when you go down to the essence of the essence of the essence, it's to having a planet to live on. And it's to have friends and have good health. And so for me it wasn't it was a very natural transition. And I started a company, an agency in Stockholm that's only working with communication for sustainability. But the company in New York is still there and is doing great with branding work. They also want to work with sustainability, but it's harder to find clients, obviously, in America. Yes?
We know everything that we need to know. We have the solutions that we need to have. We have the politicians that we have. So, from a communications perspective, what do you think is the biggest contribution that anyone can make? Agency, private person, campaign, what topic or what kind of initiative? Take a pick.
Yeah, there isn't one initiative that we can do, but so we have to work on all fronts. And as I was going to say, as consumers, and I really detest the term consumer because it feels like you're some kind of machine that you just feed stuff in. But as human beings, then we need to make sure that we don't purchase things that are harmful, and we say no to companies that don't follow our values. And obviously we have to vote, we have to be active, active in society, we have to be active on all levels and making sure that, because voting is just a little part of it, but where you're living, there's a lot of things happening there in your commune and like working with kommuner och landsting and trying to make change there also matters. Because the thing is that, so we have 169 targets, which is a lot, but if the whole world does this, there's still 40 million people who can work on every single issue here. So there's a lot of people who can do this. And the thing is that we built things together before. That's why we have all of this. We just have to say that we don't want it the way that you built it. We want it in another way, and we want it to be inclusive. We want it to be democratic. We want it to be environmentally friendly, and just say no to everything else. Better politicians. And I can say that if we look in Sweden, companies are way better at sustainability than the government is. We're working with companies that are really progressive, trying to find a way out of this. We have a government that is just saying that it's important, but then not legislating around it. So more legislation.
Right, about these ones, the sort of graphic style thingy. The process of coming up with this, was it like, did you have an idea initially that this is what I'm going to do, and did you keep on that and end up with that, or did you have any sort of idea that you scrapped? How did that process look like? I don't know, maybe it's a difficult question.
It started with that I just got a bunch of text, and I looked at it and I said, I don't understand anything. We need to study this. So we started to rewrite the names for all of the, made them as precise and short as possible. And then we started to detect things that we could, I think actually...
This is the very first version.
So this was the first version where the names were not quite right, the icons were not quite right. So this is very much a work in progress. As you can see, life below water and the fish that was the one that we kind of nailed on day one. And then there was a lot that we had to work with. Also gender equality was one that we were happy with immediately. And but it was about making like a design language that was a little bit like, it's like bathroom signs. It's like everywhere, everyone understands it. So it was important that the language was very immediate for everyone. And then we just have designed for a very long time, so we're good at it. That's basically what the rest was. And I agree that when we decided to make 169 additional icons, we were, that was a little bit insane. But I think there's a lot of icons here that I just love. And I think it's inspiring to find words and pictures that we can attach our thinking to. Was this yours?
Yeah.
Amazing. I have one here too. It's like the secret society.
Can you show my favorite, 16.2?
16.2 is a lovely one. It's about taking care of protect children from abuse and pulling it up to camera. But it's like you can do a lot of things and get, even if it's just silhouettes, you can get emotions into things also by just organizing these graphic elements, and that's very rewarding. More questions? Because my hands are frozen already, so it doesn't matter. Now I have a pair. You guys are just amazing. I mean, really amazing. And you were really amazing when it was sunny and warm and stuff. But that you still show up. You should have a little bit more signs, I think. Like it should be like.
It was raining this morning.
Oh, that's why.
Mine died last time.
But if you guys need help with, I mean, I love that they're handmade because it's so personal. But if anyone needs help with signs, you should talk to us, because it would be cool.
Thank you, Jakob. Thank you for coming today.
Oh, we have pins for you.
Oh my god.